Hello everybody, my name is Josh and welcome back to the Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels playthrough. This is going to be the final video of the playthrough. This is the bonus video. In this video, we're going to go over some pre-release stuff. We're going to have a look at some bonus content in the game itself that we couldn't showcase during the playthrough. We're going to look at some minor unused assets, and we're going to have a look at some slight revisional differences in this entire video. It's going to be a fun video. I think we're going to enjoy it. So we're going to start off this interesting bonus video with a look at some of the pre-release content for Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. There's not a lot of pre-release content, not as much as the original game, especially considering the fact that this is kind of just a harder version of the original game. We do have some things we can talk about from a couple of sources, the first one of which being a Japanese commercial. We're going to actually watch this commercial, I've got it right here, and then we're going to actually discuss some of the differences in it. So this is what the commercial is going to be. I hope you all enjoy.
次々と広がるファミリーコンピュータディスクシステムの世界。必殺忍法を使い分け、長い戦いの旅が始まる謎の村雨城。ファミコンファンのご期待に応えてスーパーマリオがウルトラレベルになったスーパーマリオブラザーズ2新発売。新しい高度なテクニックが要求されるスーパーマリオブラザーズ2。ディスクカードで新登場。
Alright, so there we go. That is the commercial that played in Japan. It would have been around 1986 when that commercial actually came out. That commercial doesn't only show Super Mario Bros. 2, it also showcases the mysterious Murasame Castle, which is another game released for the Famicom Disk System. I think it's actually a commercial for Famicom Disk System just in general. But there is some stuff that we can talk about here, and we're going to go over some photos and whatnot. We've got some screen caps from the commercial. We're going to just compare some stuff and whatnot. There's not a lot here, but just at like a general point at this early development, it looks like at this point the game is still just a port of Versus Super Mario Bros. Now, Versus Super Mario Bros. Is an arcade version of the original Super Mario Bros. Released soon after the original game came out, which was designed to be a harder version of the game. Basically, any level that repeated in the original, so for instance 1-4 and 6-4, 2-4 and 5-4, 2-2 and 7-2, etc. The harder version was placed earlier in the game, and the original, later harder version was replaced with an entirely new level, designed to be harder than the original game, just in general. And a lot of these levels, in fact, I think all of these new levels eventually were in Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels. So at this point in the game, it's just a port of Versus Super Mario Bros. With the new graphics and rearranged levels from that version of the game. But we're also going to have a look here at some individual screen captures from the game. So our first image comes from what looks like World 2.1, and here are two images here for these. Pretty much the entirety of this segment, the capture from the prototype or pre-release will be on the left side, and the main final game will be on the right side. So this is an image of World 2.1 from Versus Super Mario Bros., which is just World 2.1 from the original game, just slightly harder. And this clip shows free-roaming poison mushrooms instead of Goombas. However, the poison mushroom moves slowly and it doesn't disappear at all when Mario gets hit by it. So it's pretty easy to figure out that this is just a retextured Goomba for the sake of this commercial. And showing a clue to this form is if we have a look at the actual design of the poison mushroom between this pre-release and the final game. So the pre-release actually has a symmetrical poison mushroom design, whereas the final game has a different design on each side. It's obvious that it was made symmetrical so that it wouldn't flip when it walked, because a Goomba flips its sprite when it walks. It just flips horizontally every time it walks. It's just a 2-frame animation. So having that there is pretty much explicit evidence that this is just a retextured Goomba, and they made it mirrored so that it wouldn't look like it was a retextured Goomba and just flip every time it walked. We have another photo here. We have this photo based on World 6.2 from the final game, I believe. Yes, so World 6-2 from the final game. In the pre-release, it's shown as World 1-2 for some reason. That's probably just so they can showcase the new levels as early as possible in the game. So a lot of the newer levels are actually put in World 1 in this pre-release. But here's a couple of comparison images. We have the two images from the commercial at the top of the screen, and we have the map from the final game at the bottom. Looks like there's just a few different changes here. It looks like there's some extra coral in the pre-release. It looks like there's also no ground completely in the pre-release, but that could also simply just be an issue of these capture not getting the entire screen. But it looks pretty similar. It also looks like there's some more bloopers and enemies in this pre-release compared to the final, where it's a lot more manageable, I guess, is a way to put it. Next couple images come from what in the final game is World 5-4, but in this pre-release is coming up as World 1-4, and this level was World 6-4 in Versus. This looks identical. Like, there's because of the short bit, you can see a Podoboo on the side there. I can't remember if there's a Podoboo there in the final game, but this area is pretty much identical. It looks the exact same. This is just the sake of having a comparison for the sake of having a comparison. Alright, so we're going to jump into what would be World 4-3 in the final game, and a small section of that level was also used for World C2 in the final game. In the pre-release, this is supposedly World 5-3. Haven't gotten much more yet. This is World 6-3 from Versus right now. This would be the basis for World 4-3 and a part of World C2, as I mentioned before, in the final release. One thing you would have noticed in the commercial is that when Mario jumps off and hits the Koopa, he just does a small hop off the Koopa. This shows that Mario's new physics are not actually implemented into the game yet. So, at this point, the game still has Super Mario Bros. 1 physics. And while they're basically identical, the higher jumps are not implemented yet. The prototype of the level also has this level being played at night, which would have made sense with Versus, because Versus would have had this level played at night as well. World 6 is the night world in the original game. And this is also made apparent by the fact that they have the level using the grayscale palette, which you don't really see, if at all, in our Lost levels. And we have another section right here, small comparison right here. This is of the final section of the level. And there's some slight differences here. There's two paratroopers here in the final that aren't there in the pre-release. And there's a platform there in the pre-release that they removed for the final game. And of course, the grayscale palette is still there. And of course, the level's being played at nighttime instead of during the day. I think we have one more set of photos. Yes, one more set of photos from this commercial. And it is of World 8-1. And of the very small amount of we see of it in the commercial trailer, it is World 8-1 from Super Mario Bros. 1. There is no difference. The picture on the right is from SMB 1. This picture is literally just World 8-1 from Super Mario Bros. 1, which is pretty much definite proof by this point that this was just a port of Versus Super Mario Bros. At this time. Now, the other thing that we have is that we also have a couple photos from the manual. Now, game manuals are well known for using prototype images in their collections, which is funny because you don't usually see it like that, but they do. They have it there. It's there. It's fun, so we can have a look at it. There's only a couple images here, but there's enough that we can have a look at and compare them. For instance, we have a look at World 1-1 from the manual compared to the final game. Now, quick note, the manual images are in black and white. That's because the manual is in black and white. And they might be a bit hard to see, but that's really the best I can do with this situation. So, World 1-1 looks like we've had some minor layout changes, only really regarding placement of blocks. So, of course, the big row of blocks above Mario's head in the manual is missing one block. It goes one block further in the final. The multi-coin block that sits to the left of the stairs is not there in this manual photo. It also looks like the hidden star block is much further down the big row in the time this photo was taken in this prototype than compared to the final game, where it's actually right at the start of the row of blocks. Besides that, it's very obviously World 1-1. It looks like there's less coins up above on the second row, or that might just have been collected already. Who knows? We don't know. The other image in the manual comes from World C1, surprisingly. I didn't think they would go that far down the game, but whatever. It looks like for World C1, it's kind of difficult to see in the manual photo because it's kind of blurred, washed out. It's kind of difficult to see, but there is some layout changes here. Less blocks under the first pipe. There's only 3 question mark blocks instead of 5, like in the final game. And most notably, I feel, is the fact that the upside down pipe on the right side of the screen actually has breakable brick blocks above it instead of the solid blocks of the final game. I don't know why it was done like that. They might have hidden an item in there or something, but in the final game it's solid compared to this Proto's, the breakable blocks, which is interesting. It's interesting that that's what changed. Regarding that, that's pretty much everything we have for pre-release stuff. It's about 10 minutes of time. Interesting stuff. There's some interesting content here, but obviously there's not a lot. There's some more stuff that we'll have to go on to. Hopefully some more stuff will be revealed about this game, because this is a very interesting game, and it's sad that this is all we have prototype-wise. So, with that being said, that's the end of this segment of the video. It's time to jump to the next segment, where we'll be just taking a look at the game itself. We're going to be in-game itself. We're going to have a look at some bonus content that I couldn't show off in the main playthrough. Okay, so Super Mario Bros. 2 also has warp zones in a very similar way to what the original game did on the NES. They work in the exact same way. There are a series of pipes inside a level. It's, the same thing that it always was for the other versions. Unlike Mario 1 though, Mario 2 has a lot more warp zones, and they also play around with the warp zones a little bit. Some of the later ones. So there's a lot more of them, and they can be more of a hindrance than helpful in some cases, because this is lost levels. We're going to go through all the levels. We're going to show you all the warp zones in order, starting from the earliest and going to the end of it. So the first one is in World 1-2, just like the original game. There are actually 3 warp zones in World 1-2. The first one being for World 2, which is in a nice little spot. It's in a nice little spot right here. Basically, to get to this one, it's similar to how it's obtained in the first game. You go along the top, and you go all the way to the end, and you will find the warp zone to World 2, right at the very end here. So just jump on this platform, jump on there, and then just jump over here, and there is the first warp zone, the one to World 2. The second one, loading up the save state here, is for World 3, and it's near the start of the level actually. It requires the use of a vine. So a vine here. Hit that block there to access the vine, and you'll come up to this upper area right here, which is where the warp zone for World 3 will be. So there's World 3's warp zone. Finally, we have World 4, which is a bit more of a hunt to get to. Bit more of a hunt to get to because of where it is. You start off basically in the same way as the World 2 warp zone. Start off the same as the World 2 warp zone. So you run along the top here like this, jump over the gaps to stay on top. Unlike World 2 though, we're not going to go all the way over. You see, past the ending pipe here, there's actually 2 other pipes. We want to jump down onto this pipe here and go into this pipe. Here you'll reach an extra area, which is where the warp zone for World 4 exists. Not like that. Big Mario is actually really annoying to traverse this area. Let's go. Come on, there we go. Okay. Hit the Koopa, send the Koopa off. There's 2 invisible blocks here that you need to hit. One there, and then you get up the top here, run along, and there is the World 4 Warp Zone. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. Our next Warp Zone, loading up my save states here, is in World 3-1. So this one's accessed either by jumping over the flagpole or going through the underground bonus area. So, you'll just come all the way through here. I think I completely missed it. It's kind of a tricky one to access because it's in a pipe, which is this pipe here. So you go through here, there's a bullet ball blaster there, so be careful of that. Run all the way through, and you'll reach the end here. And here's the warp zone. It takes you to World 1. They put a nice little pit here that you can fall into and die. Because you don't want to take that, right? Okay, next location is in World 5. We start off with World 5-1. Which is for... This one's a rather tricky one. This one's a similar one. We gotta go through either jumping over the flagpole or through a secret area. In this case, it's a coin heaven. So we're just gonna take it slow to get through here. Go across. So, just gonna reload this save state every time I fail. I'm hitting that, it's a few times. This one's kind of in an annoying spot. It's right about here. And the actual location of the vine is right there. And then you need to jump off this Koopa to land up there. It's really hard to do. Because, you know, Mario doesn't jump off enemies as high as Luigi does. There we go. So hit that vine, get up to the vine area at the top here, and then run through the coin heaven. Yay, coins! Woo, 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 woo! Just run all the way through. Pretty basic stuff. Jump off at the end. Oh, I missed the coin. And by doing that, you'll end up past the flagpole and reach the first warp zone in World 5, which is for World 6. So then we move into World 5-2, which also has 2 warp zones. One for World 7 and one for World 8. We're going to be doing the World 7 one first. The World 7 one can be a little bit tricky. It requires you to end up on the top of the level, and there's really only one area that you can actually go up there for, which is pretty soon here. It's basically right here. This area right here. Basically the only area where you can actually end up on the upper level. It's kind of a tricky jump to make. But it is possible. We'll make it. There we go. So you reach the upper level, and you had to go that way, because you can't really go up here any other way. But there's where the World 7 warp zone is. World 8, on the other hand, is also in this area. You just hit this block there, get that vine to show up, climb up the vine there, and you will reach the warp zone for World 8. Which will take you all the way through to World 8. Very, very nice. There's a warp zone for World 8. Next location of interest is World 8-1, which also has a warp zone. It's a backwards warp zone. It's a special one. So you basically run through the level as normal. I say run through the level as normal. Actually make sure I hit my quick save button so that I'm not reloading the save file every single time. Alright. Come along here. This jump's a pain as Mario. Because the pipe is actually past here. One more. Let's go. Okay, cool. Save there. Because you actually want to go under here. Oh, you bugger. Yeah, so it's in a pipe here. Oh, come on. He's coming down there. Just jump down here. Do that. The pipe's this one here, I believe. And you reach an underwater area. Swim through the underwater area. You'll reach the end pretty quickly. And you'll end up behind the flagpole here. This will take you to... World 5. Which is not really what you want. Alright, next is World A2. Which has a single warp zone. It's a nicer one. It just requires going on above the level. And there's really only one place you can go above the level here. Shoot. Hit the save button after I died. No quick save button after I died. Alright. And you basically gotta do that. That's the only way you can get up to the warp zone here. Unless you're really, really lucky with Luigi. But yeah, that's where the warp zone is. Takes you to World B. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Next one, we only have 2 more left. A3 holds 1. And this one does require that you go over the flagpole. And this one you have to go over the flagpole because there's no other way to get it otherwise. Also, Cheep Cheeps suck in this level. They really, really do. You just love these levels. Because you're doing a whole bunch of jumping at the same time and, you know, the Cheep Cheeps are in annoying spots and they never do it. You need to reach the end of the level. I will get there, eventually. Right now, it's not looking so good, but I will get there. That Cheep Cheep right there is just sitting right where I don't want him to be. Cool. I think we've made it past. No! Dumb Cheep Cheep making me jump early. That Cheep Cheep was not in the right spot. Yeah, fun times all around for everyone here. Alright, save state there. Okay. Over the flagpole is what we want to do here, and the only way to get it is to go over the flagpole. So here we are. There we go. Get over that flagpole, run along the side of the ever-winding castle. It'll eventually come to a stop right there. And this warp zone will take you to World C. Finally, the last one is in World B4. An interesting level to have a warp zone in. But here we are. Dying over and over again. Levels are difficult, guys. So we're gonna use a couple save states to get through here. And right here it'll just be normal. This one's pretty easy to find. It's basically the last pipe along here. So you just gotta get through here a couple times. So we're halfway through now. There we go. Jump up. Last one, right here. So here's the final pipe. Bowser can be really annoying here, actually. Alright, get in that pipe. And there you go, you'll end up outside the castle right here, with the warp zone leading to World D. That is all the warp zones in Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels. There are a lot more of them than there was in the original game, and some of them send you back as well. They like being sneaky with these ones. Anyway, that's all the warp zones. Now to move on to some unused content. Okay, so moving on to the final segment of this video now, we're just going to talk about a few more things. There's not a lot that's there regarding image-wise, so this might be just a bit boring, so this part you might just want to, you know, sit back, relax, put your headphones in and just listen, because that's what the main bit of this bit's going to be. We're going to talk about some unused content now. There's not a lot here, but there is some stuff, so we can have a talk about it. First off, we're going to talk about a small unused variable. This unused variable was also in the first game. It's a variable that keeps track of the number of blocks hit, but it's an interesting variable, and it's interesting that they kept it in because no routine ever reads this value in game, and that was the same in the first one. So it's interesting why it's still here compared to the first game where it was also unused. So there you go. We also have a small set of unused graphics right here. Here they are, as I get rid of the other two images. So here's our set of 3 unused tiles that we have. We have a couple unused ground tiles and a cactus, obviously, because we need a cactus in this game. So it looks like the first block is an early version of the final game's ground texture. The second block is obviously a cactus. And the third block here, the one on the far right, looks like it's a more natural looking version of the original ground tile from SMB1. This ground tile also appears in every screenshot of the manual, which suggests that this was also a very late change. So it looks like the ground tile actually wasn't fully decided upon until very close to the game's actual release, which is interesting, because you don't usually see stuff like that. Finally, we're just going to talk about some revisional differences. There is a GBA release. This is the only version that has revisional differences. Every other version released of this game. So this game's been released on, obviously, the Famicom Disk System. It was released as part of Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo, and that version was also released on the Nintendo Wii as well. This game's been released on the Virtual Console for Wii, 3DS, and Wii U, and it's also on the Nintendo Switch Online service. All the Virtual Console versions, plus the Nintendo Switch Online version, are straight-up ports of the original Famicom version. So everything that applies to the Famicom version will apply to those versions. Super Mario All-Stars I'm not going to talk about in this video. I'm going to save that for its own playthrough video, actually. Its own live stream playthrough, because there is significant... It's not overly different, but there is some significant gameplay differences that I will get into there. But there is one more release that I feel we must talk about. And I'm not going to showcase it because it's kind of just there. But it's the GBA version of the game. Now, this version was only released in Japan as part of the Famicom mini-series. And that version, that series we know as the NES Classic Edition. The NES Classic series, or something like that. Not the NES Classic Edition, but a series of games released for the Game Boy Advance during the Game Boy Advance's lifespan. And it features, this version features some very, very, very minor changes to the original Famicom version. These versions all run in an emulator, which is funny. So let's just get into these changes. A plus start is now a continue code, which is exactly like the original game, which means you can return to the start of the world that you died on, barring worlds 9 to D. It's a bit unfortunate that it's not worlds 9 to D, but that's the case. Because A plus start is being used as a continue code now, to get to the worlds A to D bonus worlds, you actually need to hold B and press start instead of A. Same thing, it works the same way, you're just holding a different button down. There is a couple more things. It's possible to switch between Mario and Luigi in the middle of the game, actually. That's not possible in the original Famicom release. It is possible in All Stars, but it's not possible in the Famicom release. But it is possible here, so there you go. Finally, because we're playing on an emulator for the Game Boy Advance version, the emulators menu, which you can access by pressing L and R, allows use of saving your high score. This also allows you to save the last world you died on, which allows completion of the game in multiple sessions. And with that being said, that is the end of this bonus video. There wasn't a lot here, it was a decent amount of time, but overall, there's some interesting stuff here, but there's not a lot of information that we have about this game. I hope you all enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed putting this video together. The next playthrough will start very, very soon. I hope you're all ready for it. I'm certainly ready for it. We'll see you all then. Until then, my name has been Josh, and this has been the Super Mario Bros. 2 The Lost Levels playthrough. Bye-bye.